All right, everyone, welcome to Mindset, Motivation, and Mastery. When that music plays, I always feel like it's on fast forward. I don't know, like it's pretty hyped up there. I don't know what happened.
Was that you on the snowboard? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. That's me on the snowboard and you in the boat, right? Because that's your thing. Yeah. I know you just got a nice new boat. Listen, super excited to chat with you today. So, guys, listen, today we're talking about building a profitable real estate team. Here's the truth. In our world today, in the real estate world, we're really seeing a lot more teams pop up, and we're really seeing that dominating our real estate field. So, I mean, there's that whole thing of the death of the single agent. Well, I don't think necessarily it's the death of the single agent. What we're noticing is that teams are really dominating marketplaces. And it's the whole theory of people working together for one common goal is obviously stronger than one person going out there, and it allows us to kind of work in our strength zone. So it allows us to do what we're really good at and leverage to other people the things that maybe we're not so good at. So like our industry is like being dominated by teams, right? And so I'm talking to Pierre Nadeau today, and here's the cool thing. Pierre had a team before teams were even cool. He was cool before he even knew he was cool. So Pierre's been in the business for quite some time, but has had a team for going on 15 years. And like most real estate agents, started in the industry in a franchise and really, jumped around to a couple different franchises to see what worked, but ultimately outgrew the franchise model. And what I'm noticing right now is a lot of teams are kind of in that boat where they're outgrowing their franchise model and going, hey, what's next? So Pierre, like any typical big team, did what most teams do, which is then he went out on his own and he started his team, and he did extremely well as his own brokerage, as a team. And then in the last couple of years, I think Pierre sat back and said, okay, franchise model, did well, started growing my team to the point where I outgrew it. Then he, did what everyone does, which again, I did it myself, where I went out, started my own independent, ran my team into that. And then he started looking around and going, okay, there has to be something like more to this. Like there has to be something next. And so I know like recently he made a switch to EXP, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. But now Pierre runs his team under EXP, and we'll talk about that value. But I want to go back because I think the biggest thing that we can do for agents right now is help them grow a team in the right way. And like I said, Pierre, you started a team back when teams weren't cool. As a matter of fact, I had a team back when teams were probably, not a normal way of doing business. And so you've learned all of the struggles, all of the hard things. Like you've had to plow your way through the snow, seeing it's a snowy day out here in Canada. Yeah. And most agents don't have to do that now because there's so many people like you willing to share their story, willing to share what they've done well, what they've found a struggle to get to you where you are today. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, when you first started your team, kind of what was the mindset, and walk me through some of the things that you've learned.
Yeah. Thanks, Sheriff, for the introduction. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. But I'm glad to be here to share, and that's what we're here for, right? I feel that we've had all these years of coaching, and we've had all these years of people sharing with us. Now I feel like it's my turn to share with everyone else, just to kind of give back to the real estate community to help everybody else. And I always tell everybody I'm an open book, right? So if anybody ever has any questions, I'm an open book. Come call me, text me, or whatever, and I'm more than happy to help anyone. To hopefully not make the same mistakes that I made, because when I first started out, I started with a smaller company, and it was because I knew one person there, and he got me to go there. So first year I do 40 deals, and I go, wow, this is pretty good. Maybe I should do this full time. So I go into full time, change over to a big brand, and the reason I switched over to this big brand company, I don't care. It was Royal Page. So I switched over to Royal Page because at that time there was one other guy that had a team. I'm like, okay, they'll teach me how to build a team, right? So I go in, and this is how they taught me how to build a team. They brought me in, they introduced me to this guy, and I was like trying to drill him for questions, and he gave me nothing, like absolutely nothing, right? Because I was competition all of a sudden, right? Really nice guy, great guy, and a great agent, but he was not there to help me grow my business, right? So unfortunately, we had to do it the hard way, and it was basically throwing mud on the wall as fast as possible. So as my volume grew and we got bigger, it was time to hire an assistant. So, everybody always asks me, what's your first hire? Well, the first hire is going to be an assistant to look after all the stuff that you don't want to look after, and make sure that, you're out in front of people and you're out doing A and B things, right? And then also systemizing you, because I wasn't very systemized. I mean, when you get running and you're doing 60, 70 deals on your own, you're running like crazy. Like, you have no time. And I just knew that at one point, my doctor said, you're gonna have a heart attack, right? Like, if you don't smarten up and get some help here, you're gonna have a heart attack. So that's when we decided to hire somebody. Problem with that process is now you're spending, the first 6 months training that person on how to do things the way you want them done, right?
So it's cool that you started that way, because and here's where most people start, is they start getting busy and they hire a buyer's agent. They don't hire the assistant. And that's the biggest mistake people make. Now, you didn't make that mistake. Like, you actually hired your assistant first.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I hired an assistant to basically at that time set up all my showings, look after all the, the paperwork, the deals, handing in all the stuff to the office, making sure that because I wasn't very organized. I mean, I was great at doing deals, but I was not organized. I was awful. And so I had to find somebody who was organized and leverage that. Now, I'll tell you this, when we hired our first assistant, my business doubled that year. So it worked, right? It definitely worked, because now I was more focused on the selling activities and on the activities that were actually making us money. Okay. Then when that happened and I didn't have time again, that's when we hired our first buyer's agent. And we never called them buyer's agent. I've always called people that we brought on our partner, right? You're going to come in and you're going to partner with us, and this is what's going to happen. So, they were doing listings and buyers as well, right? So they were doing a little bit of everything, but it gave me an opportunity to hand off stuff to other agents, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, it just started to grow, right? I mean, things just started getting stupid. And so we hired, some other buyer agents and some other agents. And then, we picked up a big builder, and then we needed some more agents. So, and then fast forwarding to now, I mean, our team as of last year, like we had, our team is about 15 people. I have a full-time admin now, a full-time marketing guy who looks after all of our social media, advertising, videos and drone work and all that kind of stuff. And then, we have 13 agents, right? And that's growing like crazy right now as well, too, in another way.
Yeah. Interesting. So talk to me about recruiting real quick, because I think that's also one of the biggest hurdles that agents have from a growing a team perspective, is the concept around recruiting, right? They just keep going, well, why would a person want to join my team? Like, why would that happen? And like, I mean, talk to me about how you recruited well and what you did to get people to kind of go, man, I need to be on Pierre's team. Like, Pierre is where it's at and I need to be there. So talk to me about that.
Oh, that's a good question. I think as I got meeting agents by doing deals with them and we connected, I think that was the biggest recruiting in it. And I wasn't necessarily recruiting. I was more about, okay, I get along with this person. I like their motivation. I like their, the way they handle deals. What would that look like with them partnering up with me, right? And then we would sit down and have a coffee and have a conversation. And I would say, hey, this is what we're offering. This is what we're doing. Is there a fit here, right? Can we make this work for both of us? Because it's got to be a win-win for everybody, right?
Yeah.
The only downside I'll say to building a team that way was you're typically getting a lot of the newer agents, right? The agents that are looking to build their business, which is fine because we did very well with that. But with
I was going to ask you, do you focus on newer agents or do you focus on experienced agents? So that was one of my next questions. So
yeah, well, the problem is, I mean, I think most experienced agents aren't willing to do a 50-50 split, right? And even back then when we had the system set up where they would start with us and it was always a 50-50, right? But I paid for everything and I paid for leads and so they didn't care really because they were doing more business. And at the end of the day, if you're doing more business, I remember talking to a friend of yours in Ottawa last year, and the guy was telling me, he's like, he goes, I make $250,000, $300,000 a year in my pocket. And I said, what kind of split you on? He goes, I'm on a 50-50 split. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And he goes, well, not really. He says, because when I was on my own, I was doing 350, 400, but I had to pay for all my own stuff, my own leads. I had to look after everything, and I didn't want the headache. He says, now I just go to work, I sell houses, and I'm happy because what I keep is mine, and I'm keeping more. So, yeah. And it's no different than when you go list a house for somebody and you say, hey, I'm charging 5%, right? What you got to worry about is what you're keeping in your pocket. Don't worry about your split. Worry about what you're keeping. So if somebody's trying to bring you onto a team and they're going to provide you with all the tools that you need to succeed, then you can't afford to do all that stuff on your own, right? And you can't afford to buy all those leads, and you can't afford all that. So starting with a team is obviously a great way, right?
Well, and it even goes back to recruiting experience, right? Like I always say to people when they're talking to me about, oh, I'm joining a team, I'm like, well, you need to get clear on what it is that you want to do. And then you need to get clear on what the team brings, because your mindset is so surface. Like agents typically go, oh, well, they want to put me on a 50-50. And right now I'm on a 80-20 with my office, and they're going to put me on a 50-50. But like when we look at it, we go, number one, like in my opinion, number one is at an 80-20, how much are you spending on the things that you need to do to get business? How much money are you spending versus how much you'd be on a team? Right. Number two is how much time are you doing things that aren't bringing you money, that's causing you challenges because you're not good at it, like the paperwork. How much, like, again, they just spend so much time in those areas that ultimately is, an area where it's not their highest dollar productive activity, right? And on a team, they get to do that. So could they do more? And then, the third thing is, you're doing it solo. And, how is that working for you? And would it be better to be part of a network of people that are kind of really pushing it? And in those three things, those are really the biggest thing that's going to help drive business to you. So like, I'd rather take 50% of $1 million than 50% of 200, or than 80% of $300,000 or $400,000, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about diving deep and thinking, okay, what is it that I really want and what it is? Because like I agree, like new agents are an easy way to start, but experienced agents, like I know so many experienced agents that, like, let's be honest, if they're good salespeople, they're crappy at paperwork. It frustrates them. They spend so much time chasing it down, and they're just not in their strength zone. That if they would just go to a team that would help them in that area, they're going to sell more houses, do what they love, and ultimately put more money in their pocket. Yeah. And still be on that 50-50 split. And so many agents don't see beyond that. And so many team leaders don't even see beyond that, because they go, Jared, you got to pay more in order to compete. And I'm like, well, you can, but you also got to you're doing this to make money, and you're doing this to leverage. And you're like, so if an agent is coming to you and he wants an 80-20 to be on your team, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's such a great agent. Like, you can be great friends and not be on my team, but like the team is a business, and we've got to make some sort of money on that. I've got to pay for admin. I got to pay for staff, all of that. Right. So
the other thing is too, and I remember this years ago, probably 12 years ago, I was in Ottawa at Keller Williams. They had asked us to come in and speak about building teams, and there was a panel of 4 or 5 of us. And I remember Paul Rushforth was on that panel, and Paul Rushforth was talking about systems. He had all these systems, right? And then the question would come to me, and I'm like, I got nothing. Like I'm literally, I don't have any systems in place. I don't have, and they're like, how are you selling 200 homes a year and you don't have any systems? I'm like, I'm still figuring it out, right? And for me, though, now I get what he was talking about, because at the time I didn't. And then at that time, I actually started coaching with the people that he was coaching with, just so that I could figure out how to implement systems, right? Because before that, I was just wasting money. I was wasting a ton of money, right? Now, because of the coaching that we got, and I took for, we basically figured out how to systemize our whole business. So now a brand new agent can come to us and go, okay, what do I do? So I can say, okay, week 1, this is what you're doing. You're going to go learn how to do this. Week 2, you're going to go learn how to do this. And we have it all systemized so that I'm not the one that has to be there every single day to do the training and hold their hands, because we have the systems in place. So what's easier? Walk into something that's already systemized, keep going, and just focus on making money, or trying to figure out your next marketing plan, or trying to figure out, who's got the cheapest, whatever lead gen system or whatever, right? Yeah. So many things to learn. I always said, we just bought a house down south last year, and I said to my wife, I love it down there so much in Arizona that I would, if I were to get my license down there for the winter, I would just jump on a team, that is successful and has a proven track record, and I would just say, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Right? And just go make money and do the fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Well, and that's and it's so true, because agents always say to me as well, they go, "Oh my gosh, I'm working 24/7," and I'm like, "Well, who's helping you?" Well, nobody. Well, that's why you're working 24/7. Like, if you don't want to work 24/7, get in an environment where where someone's supporting you. And again, that's one of the reasons that teams are now really starting to skyrocket and come to the surface, because everyone wants freedom. And like, it's funny because real estate agents get in this business because they don't want to work for someone, and they want freedom, and they want all of that sort of stuff. And then it always ends up the other way around, where they're like tied to their phone and again, they don't have to be, if they choose not to be. And again, it even goes right down to team leaders. Like let's be honest, there are some people that are great leaders that can learn to leverage and be able to buy themselves time by being the leader. And there's others of us that are just going to say, I don't want that responsibility. I just want to be on a team where I can leverage, and both sides of it is super cool. Just like you said, like, you're at a point now where you've had a massively successful real estate career. And if you do ever go to Arizona, you just soon, I don't want the responsibility and obligation. I'm just going to jump on a team that's doing really well and go kill it. It's funny. Obviously, I coach for Tom Ferry, and I've been, he's been a mentor of mine for a long time in a successful organization. And I'm going on a call in about 30 minutes doing another show for him. And we're talking completely about systems, operations, and how to, take your business and your team and operationalize the whole thing. Because what you said is so common with successful real estate agents. Like I call them bulls in a china shop, right? Like they just go in and they're super successful, and they have no clue how they got super successful, but they are, right? And then when they start building a team, they have to go out and go, okay, how did I do this so I can systemize it? How do I do this so I can teach it? How do I do it so that I can, do it? And we call it scaling, obviously. How do I do it so that I can scale and go massively bigger, but using the things that I do well? And that's all about systems, checklists, process. So like, if you're a team and you're in that boat, then I'm just going to say you need to hire a coach or hire someone that helps come in and help systemize you. So that, listen, Pierre, you've been doing a long time. You got lots of systems in place. Do you still feel like you need more systems?
You know what? I still get training. I still get coaching.
Yeah.
Every week. I mean, I'm on, obviously the level of coaching has changed, right? But I get coaching every week. And you know what? If I still need it, then agents still need it. I'm a huge believer on coaching. I really do. Like, some people say, oh, you spent all this money on coaching. And I look at it differently. I look on how much money I made because I went to coaching, right? Yeah. Because I didn't know everything, right? And now the different level of coaching that I'm doing is with guys that are, doing, selling 400 or 500 homes a year. And that's where I want to go. And it's more of a mastermind coaching as well, too, where you're learning about what do you do and what's working for you and what's happening, right? So we're constantly doing that. I've got a great guy right now, Al Stasek, that I've been dealing with, that he's amazing. He's just amazing. And just the advice that, he's helping me with. But, if I would have done it sooner, I would probably saved a lot of money in my career. But then when you do the coaching, this is the only problem with coaching. And I know you're a big coach again. The only problem with coaching is it makes you work. That's right. So if you don't want to work, don't get a coach, because the coach is going to keep you accountable and it's going to make you work. Now, if you're somebody that wants to grow and wants to be motivated and wants to be more profitable, then get a coach.
So I'm going to challenge you on that. Yeah. If you don't want to work anymore, get a coach that helps you leverage, because that's the key.
There you go. Well, hey, you know what? And what are we doing? Like, what am I doing now, right? The leverage level has changed 100-folds, right? So because real estate changes, right? And they're even saying that, like I keep hearing this, that the team model is broken, right? The old team model that we've had is broken. And now that I see different opportunities, I go, yeah, you know what? Maybe that wasn't the best model to follow, right? But I guess the biggest issue, some people say to me, okay, what are your biggest issues when you're building a team? Biggest issue is you get a person on, you train them for a year, and then they go, you know what? I can go over here and do 80-20, right? And they don't realize how much you've done during that time, and they don't realize how many expenses. Like I've had people leave our team and come back, which is great. Like I just love it, right? Because they're great people, and you hate to lose great people, but at the end of the day, they're going to look out for themselves, right? So they leave. And now you've spent all that time. I just talked to a guy the other day, and he was like, man, I can't believe it. I just spent a whole year training this guy. Now he's going to go do his own thing. I'm like, well, get used to it, because you're going to do it with the next guy, and you're going to do it with the next guy. And unfortunately, unless they keep seeing value, and then the problem is if you want to put them on that 80-20 split and you're paying for everything, well, then there's no money left at the end of the day. So now you're not profitable, right? So you got to make sure you're profitable too at the end of the day.
Yeah, and for my opinion, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but like I don't think teams work in a lot of these conventional models. Like a lot of these teams don't work. Like I was with Remax, and Remax is just not a model that a team works in. Are there some people that do well in it? Well, yeah, sure. But for the most part, the model itself doesn't work for growing teams, which is why most teams go, okay, what do I do next? Like they outgrow the franchise model and go, what do I do next? And the only solution for them is to go out on their own and become an independent. Like that is the only solution, Pierre. Now, talk to me about this, because you joined EXP. I joined EXP. We worked together from that perspective. Here's the deal. I joined it for a different reason than you joined it. For me, I joined it because, listen, I've been in this industry a long time. I'm licensed in, Florida, Canada, and I want the ability to kind of expand. If I ever chose to get into real estate, or if I ever chose to do anything, I want the ability to kind of expand beyond just my territory. Because when we talk about the team model, we talk about, like, we see teams now going, well, I'm going to have a team in this area and in this area and in this area. And then you're dealing with, I always call it, you're dealing with that franchise headbutt, right? Where, oh, you got to go talk to a broker of this, or you got to go talk, or as an independent, you got to go, well, now I got to go get licensed in that state or licensed in that area. And I got to become a broker of record, and I got to set up bank accounts, and I got to, like, it's so much work. And then, for me, the EXP model came out, and it was the answer to everything that I need when it comes to that. So, like, I'm not, again, I'm in it because the opportunity to grow a team is so much easier in a company that supports that sort of growth. So, like, for you, now you have an operating team. Like, talk to me a little bit about kind of your mindset of why you switched into that.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, every entrepreneur, any realtor that has a big team or is building a team is always looking to grow, right? And this is the one thing that I find that we all have in common is we're all looking to, what is better? What is a better way for me to do my business, to be more profitable and to grow, right? A lot of us do not like sitting around and just waiting, right? We're always constantly trying to improve ourselves. So when I looked at this model, we had our best year ever on my own. And you got to remember, I was keeping 100%, right? And but the issue that I was having with having my own brokerage was there was a lot of things that I had to do that weren't making me money and were not the fun things that I enjoy doing, right? So when we looked at that model, I mean, it kind of changed our mindset. I'm reading your thing, mindset, motivation. Well, my mindset completely changed because now I went from going like, I'm such a small thinker. I'm just thinking of having 15 agents on my team in Kingston, in my own hometown. But now my mindset was broadened because now I have a team, and literally a year later, I have a team all across Canada and in the US. So we've added like 100 agents to our group, and we've made all kinds of great friends, and it's so much easier than me trying to open a franchise of my original brokerage out west or in Quebec or wherever, right? Ottawa or wherever you want to stay. So so this team model is another team model that that has really made us grow, and now we're collecting residual income from that particular team. I still have my team here in Kingston, which I'm growing, and I continuously want to grow because I love helping people, and I think it's we've got some amazing people right now, but we're constantly growing, right? The other thing is that when somebody wants to grow off of your team, we have different levels like within our team, where now if they don't want to be part of the team model and they want to go do their own branding and they want to go grow their business in a different way, and let's say they get to that point where they're doing 35, 40 deals a year, where we're like, okay, let's graduate you to this next level. And then we have another level, right, where they can graduate to that and do their own thing and build their own team, right? Like I look at an example right now, my son, and I'm going to pump his tires here, but ever since we joined the new company,
is he around? Because I want to make sure that he's not around. I don't poke his tires.
No, he's not around.
He's a good guy. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah. But here's a guy that's 25 years old, and he's constantly asking me about building his own team, right? And I told him, I said, you are building the best team possible right now. Like he's got, 5 or 6 people that he's brought in to EXP, but now he, after like next month, he's going to have like 20 people in his group. So he's got a team of 20 people. He's got no expenses. He's getting residual income from them every month. He doesn't have to worry about training them. He doesn't have to worry about motivating them. And he's 25 years old.
Yeah.
Like that's the craziness of this new model, right? So there's a little bit of something in there for everybody. I don't know if that answers your question. I get sidetracked and I get excited. But
well, here's the truth. I'll tell you, I know you, so I know your mindset, and like we always want to give more to our team. And in an old structured team, it's one of those things that, like, to give our team more, we're taking less. Like we're like, oh, I want to give you a 60-40 because you're doing really well. Well, then we take less. What I love is when you can reward your team for doing well. So like here's 2 examples. And again, I've come back from a background of Keller Williams. So like everyone laughs at the profit share, residual income, whatever it is. Like I came from that world, and people don't take it seriously. And what I love about kind of this new model, EXP, is the fact that it allows us to give rewards without us losing, right? So the capping structure. So listen, they pay so much to EXP, then they get a little raise themselves on the team. But here's the cooler part, that they can start creating a future for themselves. No different than Pat, your son, is, he's creating this platform that now is going to build him wealth. I was just on a mastermind group with wealth builders, has nothing to do with real estate. And they said, listen, your job is to go out and create as many pillars of income, of residual income that is just paying you, over and over again without you having to do the work over and over again. So for someone like Pat or someone that's on our team, it's an easy thing. It's two-sided, right? Hey guys, go out and build your own wealth, and then, get them to join our team, whether even they're here or whether they're across the country, and we'll all give back to these group of people and then help them grow. And so it allows us to give our team members rewards over time, right? So I think that's amazing, because teams struggle with that. Just like you said, a team member comes to you and goes, well, listen, I'm doing really well. I'm just going to leave and go start my own team, or leave and go to I want those team members to go, I want you to think bigger than that. I want you to think long-term. I want you to think, when you're done with this business, what's happening to you? I don't want you to think short-term. Because that's where the model is broken, right? Is we have nowhere to put people as they grow. And why I'm here is because we now have a place to put people.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So,
and this is the other thing that I noticed too, is that the agents that I had on my team are now doing better, and they're more profitable, because the ones that are buying into the systems are excelling. Right. Yeah. I had an agent I met with a little while ago. We had breakfast, and she was telling me, my last year at, my last company, I made $50,000, and this year on your team, I'm going to make over $200,000. And do you think she cares what her split is?
No. Yeah.
She doesn't care, because she knows what she made. But I'm going to tell you this: she did the work. She hustled, right? And we tell this to every single person that we're about to hire. I say, listen, I can give you all the tools, and I can guide you, and I can coach you. But at the end of the day, you got to do the work, right? Because if you don't want to do the work, then no team or no model is going to work for you at all.
Well, and I was compared to exercising, right? Like me sitting at home alone and thinking I'm going to exercise is silly. That's why we go to the gym. You put yourself in a place where everybody's exercising. You're not going to sit in the corner and not exercise, right?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, but it's motivating as a team leader to see your people do well, right? And that's what we want for them. And, this has allowed us to be able to do that. Right. So it's kind of the new thing for us, and it's been pretty exciting, really.
Yeah. No, I've watched your growth, and I think it's amazing. And what I see is a new spirit in the team. I see a new spirit, a new opportunity where everyone's kind of excited about this. not, excited from the perspective of it's a new opportunity, but it's also, got all the tools, everything that we want to use, and it's all there at our fingertips if we choose to use it. Yeah. And it's offered to everybody on our team. And here's the good part. As a team leader, it doesn't cost you any money, right? So when we're talking about building a profitable team, you're not having to invest a crazy amount of money into these tools for agents not to use it. The system itself is providing the tools, and yeah, you're paying for it in some way or another. But yet it's one of these things that you're not having to fork out all the money, and your expenses skyrocket while the agents sit around and not use it, which is typical on a team. It is what it is, right? So everybody wants the shiny stuff, and no one necessarily wants to use the shiny stuff, right? So
the other thing I'll say too is that bigger is not always better, right? Because there was a point where we had the biggest team we'd ever had was probably about 20 agents, and we had 2 inside sales agents, we had 2 other admin staff, and at the end of the year, I mean, our GCI, our total GCI was massive, and our profit was like this. And I was like, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? Yeah. I mean, other than ego, right? And I could care less. Like I always say, I don't care if anybody knows who I am. I just want the check.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, I just want the check. And I care about what's left in my account at the end of the day. So we restructured. I mean, we had some restructuring, and we became more profitable, right? But again, learning, right? Just learning from stupid mistakes. So
yeah, cool. So listen, guys, here's the reality. I think the big thing that we need to make sure that we're taking from this is, as you grow a team, you want to make sure that you have, the systems, the operational model kind of really honed in and get a real clear, focus on where you're going, and that you're aligning with the right people and the right system to make sure that that's working for you. Because, again, hiring all the wrong people, no different than what you just said here. Like, if we could have a massive team that's not near as productive and spend that much more money, still look good from the outside looking in, and be, in pain on the inside, versus hiring a lean, mean, productive machine where everyone's doing really well. We're, gauging with each other and all of that. And then thinking long-term, what's our long-term, gameplay for the future? Because, real estate is tough. I mean, listen, I coach a person right now. They're going into their 80s and still hustling in real estate. And they don't have, truly, this particular person doesn't have to, but it's the mindset of our industry that you've just got to hustle till you're, until you die. And no offense, I don't want to do that. I don't know about you. And I know you well enough to know now, like, you're going, no, I don't want to do that either. Right. So
no. It's all about balance. You got to have balance, right? Because there's agents that are out there working so hard, but their relationships are struggling. They're having problems at home because they're never home. And you know what? We went through all that, right? We learned all that because you're just working. And unfortunately, this business is addictive, right? You get going and you're like, okay, I can do more. But I have more balance in my life now than I've ever had, right? Like, as far as having other things to do in life other than just working every day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can see that. I watch you on the golf course every once in a while. All right, my friend, listen, I really appreciate your time. I don't want to keep you any longer. Thanks for sharing your story. I mean, obviously I got to watch your success. You guys are killing it. Congrats. That's amazing. And listen, here's the truth. I'm not going to, pump up his head either, but like, Pat's coming up behind you and he's putting pressure on you. So he's going to continue killing it as well, and live into the Nadeau name, and you guys are amazing team. So thanks for your time today, bud.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared, for having me, and appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.